I'm here in Copacabana, Bolivia. It's a town on the shores of Lake Titicaca, just a short distance from the Peru border. We got here after a 4-hour bus ride from La Paz, and that included a ferry crossing of part of the lake. This is what a day trip out of La Paz looks like. I will present the visit to Lake Titicaca in the order in which I experienced the excursion. Make sure you hang on for a few minutes to see the Isla del Sol, or Island of the Sun. It is a spectacular place in the middle of the lake that you won't want to miss. My first interaction with Lake Titicaca came a little more than 2 hours into the ride from La Paz. We arrived at San Pablo de Tiquina. That's a small village on one side of the lake at the Strait of Tiquina. We got off of the bus and boarded a small ferry for the crossing. The strait is less than a kilometer wide at the narrowest point. It separates the upper and lower sections of the lake, which are also known as the larger and smaller sections. The water was calm and the crossing took only about 10 minutes. We didn't leave the bus behind. It made the journey from one side to the other on a barge. That was quite the visual, watching the large passenger bus slowly make its way across the channel. We spent a few minutes in the village of San Pedro de Tiquina as we waited for the bus. It had a nice little square to explore and even had a platform that you could climb. From the top, there were views of the village and the strait beyond. In the village, there is also an outpost of the Bolivian naval forces. Bolivia is landlocked, but the Navy patrols the lake and a number of large rivers that are tributaries of the Amazon. San Pedro also gives visitors the chance to have a social media moment with its letters positioned directly in front of the lake and the ferry crossing area. Although we just crossed the lake, it would be another hour or more to our destination. We climbed away from the water and along the way had some pretty sweet views of the surface of Titicaca. Our next stop was just outside the town of Copacabana. Situated up on a hill, the overlook provided a picture-ready panorama of the town. It also gave views of the countryside that was nearby. In just a few moments, we would arrive at our main base for the rest of the day. We had just a little time to explore the city of Copacabana before we caught a boat to take us out on the lake. I tried to see as much as I could. My first stop was the main market area of the town. This is called the 2nd of February market. Most of the vendors who had a presence there sold food and snacks. It was not a huge market, but it was still a nice area to walk through for a few minutes. Nearby was Plaza Copacabana, otherwise known as the Plaza of the 2nd of February. It is the main square of the town and has plenty of space so that you can spend a pleasant few minutes seeing what it is all about. The town of Copacabana has around 6,000 residents. Combined with other nearby villages, the municipal area counts over 15,000 inhabitants. There are a few vendors to the side of the square opposite the market. They sell mainly souvenirs. The highlight of this part of town is impossible to miss. This is the Basilica of Our Lady of Copacabana. Built in the Renaissance style, the structure is imposing and the white walls give it a stunning beauty. A church was originally built here in 1550. This version started taking shape in 1601. My camera was not allowed inside, but judging from the magnificence of the exterior, I can only imagine how opulent it is. February 2nd is the day of the Purification of Mary, and pilgrims come from all over the world to this site for a festival which lasts for 3 or 4 days. If you are taking a tour of the lake and similarly find yourself with just a short time in Copacabana, the church and its courtyard is one place to make certain you see. At its heart, Copacabana is a lake town, one of the largest on the shores of Titicaca. The waterfront is an attractive area and the spot from where visitors will embark on boat rides to see more of the lake. That was the case for our group. We loaded onto a vessel for an hour-long ride out onto Titicaca. Our destination was the Isla del Sol, but the journey to get there was a big part of the fun. The boat had a lower level, which was covered, and there was also seating on top that was open to the elements.
We are now on Lake Titicaca for real. The crossing has begun. Looks like it might be a little rough. Sitting up top, almost everybody else is downstairs. One other brave soul up here with me. We're gonna have a fun ride.
It was a rather tumultuous ride across the lake. There was not a single moment that it was calm, but I don't think either Brenda from Argentina or me would have changed a thing. The beauty of Titicaca is astounding. That deep blue color of the water is an incredible jolt to the senses. Lake Titicaca is sometimes called the highest navigable lake in the world. The surface is just over 3,800 meters, or right at 12,500 feet above sea level. It is positioned within the Andes mountain range. This is the largest lake on the South American continent, both in terms of surface area and the volume of water. At its deepest, the bottom is 932 feet down, with the average depth of the lake right around 350 feet. Titicaca is located directly on the border of Peru and Bolivia. Our journey allowed us to pass several of the 41 islands which are present within the lake. The scenery as we glided by was phenomenal. We even had a seabird that accompanied us during the latter stages of the trip. Seeing this spot and reveling in the boat ride that took us there made for an unforgettable experience. Soon enough, we had the landing on the Isla del Sol in sight. For this trip, we docked at one place on the island, and the boat would later pick us up at another. This is a rocky and hilly island which contains no roads or motorized vehicles. The view from the island across Titicaca to snow-covered peaks of the Andes is spectacular. It was a short, steep climb from our boat to one of the biggest attractions on the Isla del Sol. This is Pilkokaina, which translated means the place where the bird rests. It is also referred to as the Temple of the Sun. The two-story structure was erected by one of the Inca rulers. It is believed to have been built in the late 15th century, about the same time that Columbus was, quote-unquote, discovering the Americas. The temple covers an area that is roughly 15 meters by 13 meters. From what I've read, the exact way that the Inca used the structure is unknown. Still, it is remarkable to investigate the various chambers within the building and realize that over 500 years ago, it was being used in some way by members of the famous Inca Civilization. This is one of about 80 different Incan ruins on the island. The Inca Empire was the largest pre-Columbian civilization in the Americas. Its era of prominence lasted for around 150 years.
This island holds great significance for the Incan culture. The first two emperors of the Incan civilization were born right here on Isla del Sol.
At least that's the tale according to Incan legend. Most probably, the story was formulated as justification by the Incas for invading the island. Our group hiked over the island's most popular trail. There was a lot of up and down along the path. It covered a little less than 2 kilometers. Along the way, there was a viewpoint at the highest elevation of the trail. That allowed for astonishing views of the island and the lake. Evidence abounds here of the system of terraced farming, which allowed the Incas to grow food on the steep and rocky ground. There were also donkey and llama encounters as we walked the trail. It is possible to spend the night on the Isla del Sol. There are several hostels and eco-lodges, a few of which are situated right next to the path that we traveled.
This is not a long hike, and it's not a really steep hike. There were a couple of sections, but it's a difficult hike because of the elevation. Our guide just said that we're right at 4,000 meters at this point. It is gorgeous, though. This village, unbelievable.
The village is called Yumani. Around 800 families in all call the island home. They survive by farming, fishing, and also catering to the tourists who visit every day. The houses are simple, but they are just in the most idyllic location. Take it from Brenda of Argentina.
Imagine, wake up in the morning, open your door, and see it.
In other places, these would be called million-dollar views. Before we left the island, there were just a couple of other throwbacks to the days of the Inca. These Inca steps have been the way to get from the village of Yumani to the water and vice versa for 500 years. They are steep and uneven, But that's nothing when you consider that you are literally walking in the footsteps of history. Water rolling down the hill is also channeled to a handful of fountains. The legend of these springs has existed since the days when the Spanish considered them to be fountains of youth. People still drink and refresh themselves with water from the Inca springs today. After another hour back to Copacabana, we had a bit more time to further explore the town. I went to Plaza Sucre, a small and dusty park. There wasn't much to the square. It was surrounded by numerous tour buses and public transportation buses, showing the popularity of Copacabana and Lake Titicaca. I wandered around just a little more in this area and did find a few examples of street art. Those murals were a very welcome sight in the town. The streets, especially the main Avenue 6th of August, are essentially wall-to-wall shops catering to tourists, hotels, and places to eat and drink. I did find a moment away from the crowds in the back of Hotel Gloria. From there, I saw the Copacabana harbor and got a nice lake view just before the sun slipped below the horizon. This tour was offered by a company called Bolivia Hop. I was able to do all that you've seen in this video for a cost of $47.
It valued what it cost. It's amazing.
A busy day is coming to a close, and we certainly did a lot. Copacabana here, I think a little bit more touristy than I thought it would be, but that's to be expected, being right on the lake and everything. The Island of the Sun, though, with the Inca connection, that was my favorite part of the trip. And did I say that the day is coming to a close? There's a little matter of a 4-hour bus ride back to La Paz. I guess you take the good with the bad. Thanks so much for being here on Old, Alone, and Far From Home. I will see you next time.